Welcome to the Beginner Yoga Series with Flow into Alignment. Today we're going to talk about some hard poses that we can make easy, especially for beginners. So come, let's talk about this topic. The first pose I like to talk about is Chaturanga. And Chaturanga at first seems very intimidating because you go from a plank pose into a tricep push-up. And so you just drop down to where your elbows line up with your chest. And that seems really hard for those at first. So let's talk about how to make this easier. For those that have wrist pain, get a wedge. I discussed this in a different video about equipment, and the link is below. And also the link to be able to get one of these wedges is below as well. So you go first into your tabletop. So for those that don't have wrist pain, you can go into your tabletop at first, gently pressing into your fingertips. So another way to avoid pain in the wrist is to press into the fingertips and the knuckles of the hand, and to gently point the fingers slightly out to the side, so slightly out to the corner. If you have wrist pain, you grab your wedge and press into your wedge and have a slightly less steep angle in your wrist. So let's talk about how to make Chaturanga easier. So first of all, we can start at a very beginner level, which is moving from, let me fix my mat, it's rolling up. Moving from a tabletop position to puppy pose to be able to lower down to your elbows. So I want to move these blocks out of the way. We're going to go from tabletop. I am going to use one of these blocks between my knees. That will help my legs stay in place and my hips stay in place. You're going to gently squeeze the block, walk your hands out as you slowly lower the chest down to the ground, so you create this nice angle from the top of your head to the base of your spine. This is puppy pose. And then to move into a modified chaturanga, drop down to your elbows, slide your body forward, and your block will probably follow. And here is that modification for chaturanga. To come out of it, you press into your hands, tuck your head, tuck your tailbone, and press back up. Without the block, it'll look like this, very similar again, dropping down to your elbows and sliding your chest down. From here, we can actually now talk about how to do a modified upward dog. So after you lower down onto your forearms like this, you would just walk your elbows a little bit more forward and come into Sphinx pose. And Sphinx pose is a modified up dog. As you can tell, your shoulder blades will be towards your spine and gently squeezing to the spine. And you have that lifted chest and lifted chin, but supported lower back. So let's talk about the next modification for Chaturanga. Pressing back up to tabletop. We're going to move from tabletop into a plank. So we first need to kind of explore, where do we go from plank position? We'll drop the knees. You can keep the toes tucked or not. I like to keep my toes tucked. You're going to pull the elbows in towards the ribs, squeeze them in, slide your chest so where it's right in between your hands, so that when you bend your arms, your elbows will be right over the wrist. Exhale down. You can go all the way down to the ground. And then from here, you would squeeze the shoulder blades together, untuck your toes, inhale up, up dog, and this is modified up dog with the knees down on the ground. And then you would exhale, pull back through, moving through your tabletop back into downward dog. So those are just some modifications for Chaturanga and up dog. So what about down dog? For some people, down dog could also be very hard. And a lot of it has to do with wrist pain. It really doesn't have to do with the legs. So a lot of people think, oh, it's going to take a lot of mobility in the legs. Actually, it's not. So let me first discuss for those that have what they would think are tight legs. How do we modify downward dog to where we can help with that? So let's come into tabletop again. We're going to tuck our toes And we're going to exhale, lift our hips up and back into down dog. As you can see, I do struggle getting my heels down to the ground. And you may think, oh, it's because my legs are tight. No, your muscles may be tight, but it could also be other things. So to help with that, what we're going to do is we're going to pick our heels up as high as you can get them. Still point your tailbone up to the corner of the wall, the top corner of the wall. Bend your knees towards your chest and press your chest towards your knees. And here we have bent knee down dog. And yes, if my face is getting red, that is true. My face likes to get red. So from here, you can do that. What you can also do is if your heels are just barely lifting off the ground, the wedge can also be used. I'm going to put it back here, back near my feet. And tuck it in. Again, go from tabletop, press up, and press my heels back into the wedge. So this can also be a great modification. What you do want to achieve with down dog is a straight spine. You don't want a spine that curls into a cat back, nor a back that tilts up like this, because that takes a lot of pressure into the back and the back muscles. We want to be able to release the back muscles. What about for those that have wrist pain? The block can also be useful. I'm going to show this with the block underneath. The wedge can also be useful. I'm going to put the wedge underneath the yoga mat. For me, it's just easier to get some traction with the wedge under the yoga mat. So I'm going to press my hands into that wedge that's underneath the yoga mat. It'll take some of the pressure off my wrist, tuck my toes, press back, and a lot less pressure on my wrist. Maybe it's not really about a pressure on the wrist. Maybe it feels like your arms aren't long enough. So you're going to get your yoga blocks. Place them here to where they're going to be the width of your hands. Tuck your toes. And as you can see, it makes it look like my arms are longer. You can also, again, do this if you have wrist pain. Take some of the pressure off the wrist. Another variation for downward dog is honestly just more of a forward fold. So you can still use the blocks to help you to take the pressure off the wrist. And let's say pushing back into this position is still really difficult for you. So just walk the feet a little forward. Sorry, my braid is getting in the way. Walk the feet a little forward. And as you can tell, this is more of a forward fold. I am still going to go ahead and bend my knees, still pointing my knees towards my chest and my chest towards my knees. And I'm still going to try to get that nice long spine with a gentle chin tuck, moving into more of that position that you would typically find with down dog. So slowly over time, you can get to a place where you can be able to achieve downward dog, chaturanga, and up dog. All of these to what you typically see in your pictures, all while using these modifications. And that is the wonderful thing I love about yoga is we do not have to do the pose the way that someone who's been doing it 20 years does it. We can do it with our modifications and the way that our body is allowing us to do it today. And we can get stronger and more mobile as time goes on. I hope this topic was helpful for you. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.